everyone, and welcome back to the LCS NACL. One series over and done with, and still another to be had with elimination on the line. It's CLGC going up against TLC, and honestly, the fact that this is a face-off that we're seeing in this lower bracket, Joshi, I think is really interesting, because there's definitely a lot of really good things to be said about these teams, and we're saying goodbye to one of them after this.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the fact that CLG ended up getting upset by TSM in the upper bracket that finds CLG Challengers in this spot in the first place. And so, CLG Challengers, everybody has been saying behind the scenes that these guys are super sick, but it hasn't yet translated to stage performance. The only time we really got to see CLG at peak performance was when they were playing up against Cloud9.
Got to see little bits of it. There's definitely been some games, though, I feel, from CLGC that it's like, okay, this is what people are kind of talking about, and then we just don't really get enough, hence why they're here in the first place. And of course, stakes for Team Liquid, because this is the team that's been dominating in these playoff situations, but it's only Bradley left on his roster, so only Bradley really with that weight on his shoulders.
I haven't had the pleasure of casting Team Liquid Challengers yet this year, and I'm stoked to do so because of how different the team looks, but still bears the weight of the organization's history within playoffs, being such a contender, and that's why so many have looked to Bradley and what are you going to bring to the table as the only remaining member, and working with Spawn in that coaching position and all these new faces. But now facing off against a team that also isn't expected to be in the lower run of the bracket puts heavy expectations on both.
And looking at the CLG Challengers roster, I mean, there's definitely a lot of reason as to why people have talked about CLG being these scrim gods, why people have spoken so highly of this team.
Yeah, the last time that I actually saw CLG and TLC play up against each other was when I was sitting on some of their scrims, and they did, in fact, give a game where CLG was dominating the mid lane so hard, APA ended the game with 0 KP the entire time. But that was scrims. That's definitely not how we've been seeing them play on stage. So much of this has been trying to see whether or not CLG have been playing with the same kind of confidence that they do in scrims as they do on the actual broadcast. And it doesn't feel as though we've been seeing the same thing come through. It's been so much about whether or not they have the confidence to start with these early skirmishes.
And then looking ahead at this Team Liquid roster, I mean, it is one that is heavily changed from the dominating roster that we've gotten to see, but definitely still a lot of highlights on the team. Of course, Bradley, the only remaining member. But when we're looking to individuals like Mir and APA, I mean, these are two individuals that have stepped in and have been fantastic on the squad.
Yeah, there's a lot of familiarity for fans that have watched the careers of these players before joining Team Liquid. I mean, Mir coming in as where, you know, some people knew him as Arthur back before making the name change, but still bringing that experience through. APA, it's always enjoyable when a player makes their name on specific champs and things as well. And, you know, ASOL being a classic for APA. But I'm also looking towards someone like Arrow, who has been very much a part of the scene for quite some time, also experienced in the LCS, maybe dabbled in a little television here and there, but always keeping competition at the forefront. So how do these pieces come together in playoffs where a lot of that veterancy does matter and drawing from best of series in a way that does differ from the best of ones of the regular season?
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about the whole CLG Scrim God thing, and obviously the players are talking about it too. Here we had an interview with APA where he talks about it himself.
So we've scrimmed CLG a lot actually, and they've been pretty good scrim partners. I think they actually have a good team. I just think that we've improved more from the scrims than they have.
Pretty good scrim partners. We just have to see it.
He goes on to say that, well, he in the middle where the cut happened, he's like, I try not to flame them a whole lot. But it also comes back at the backside where he's like, yeah, we will spend more time in review after each scrim where we're getting like the hyperbolic time chamber and improving super fast. Whereas he doesn't feel as though CLG has necessarily improved. They started off really hot and they've kind of sat there almost the entire time. So Team Liquid, I mean, we have seen, especially from their bottom side, a lot of rapid improvement, but it is one of these spots where if you look at it, we've talked to some of the previous coaches of APA, and previous coach of Maryville, Jensen Go, even says that if he was to give the Most Valuable Prospect award, he would be giving it to Ian APA Stearns as one of the strongest members. We've already nodded towards Mir as one of our potential frontrunners for this team, but this team has such a strong top side of the map between Bradley, Mir, and APA that it's going to be kind of difficult for CLG to really stand up to all of the power that they are bringing to the table.
Well, at least the fact that these two teams have gotten to scrim against each other a lot, there's not really going to be any surprises, at least on that front, unless somebody's coming in with an entirely new thing. But APA, definitely someone who has come into the scene, who was heavily talked about before his arrival here in NACL, and has definitely proven why that was the case. And looking then a little further into this mid matchup, I'm intrigued to see how it's going to be going down up against Copy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Copy is somebody that all of the casters and everyone watching has talked about for quite some time. The big storyline coming through of, oh, Copy's not in the LCS. What can he do with this squad? And a lot of returning members as well. So CLG, when looking on an individual level, there is a lot of talent there. And even looking at the losses and why they dropped down to lower bracket, one of the reasons being was it didn't feel like Copy was unlocked fully in the way that we had seen in the regular season, the way that CLG has played around in the past. We saw a bit more of that in their victories, and now looking to continue to capitalize upon the win conditions that have been working well for them throughout the season when they do feel online and in line with their expectations set in scrims.
Yeah, and it's definitely a player that it's been interesting to kind of watch how Copy has been going, because we have asked in the past, why is this guy not currently playing LCS? We've seen how patient he is with so many of his abilities and his target selection, so we'll see if that can come to full fruition here as they play for elimination against Team Liquid Challengers.
So much talent on both of these squads, and we're gonna say goodbye to the one of them in just a few games. Our draft is ready, so time to see what we can expect from these two teams heading into today.
All right. Zero. Game number one.
Game number one.
Liquid Challengers versus CLG Challengers. So one thing about this round in the playoffs, because we were talking about the teams that were eliminated and how there's kind of that pressure on EG Challengers as being the first Challengers team eliminated. But the farther you get, you don't feel that as much because we just eliminated a Challengers team. Now we're guaranteed to eliminate another. We're getting down to that bottleneck. We're really squeezing through all the talent that is present on both Challengers and non-Challengers teams. So, you know, some of the pressure off, at least in that way. But I don't think the players actually care about that because they just don't want to be out.
They just don't want to go home.
In time. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of wild to remember that because we are in a double elimination bracket, a quarter of all teams are eliminated in 2 rounds. Another quarter of teams are eliminated in the round after that. So, like, realistically, we're looking at whether or not you make it into the top half of the bracket. And both these teams, I think, going into the regular season, we were expecting to be in the top half, not only of the regular season, but also in the playoffs towards the end. And they have to play each other in the second round of the lower bracket coming through. Mir instantly going for the Jarvan. I was about to call it the Rose Thorn because he did have such a great performance on that in the last game. But Kim down, also avoiding the Nautilus, which has been his bread and butter so far, going directly over to the Rakan.
Ooh, okay. So still a nice level of engage for Kim Down. I know we're looking at Kim Down as somebody who's been accruing a lot more experience this year compared to others and really building into a player that's still forming that identity within this level of competition.
Yeah, the only player to come specifically from Collegiate. I know APA was playing for Maryville for a long time, but APA had played on teams like Barrage and Resolve in the past that had plenty of success in the amateur split. Kim Down, he played high school for Cypress High School, and then he came here. He was playing for UC Irvine before, and this is his first foray into a more competitive season, or at least one where he's been having any success. As we do go to the second half of the draft, lots of dive coming through for Team Liquid Challengers and lots of anti-dive on the other side for CLG Challengers, and that is going to be really important about how well Team Liquid can get that first kill. Whenever you have a Jinx composition, you always got to know it's a reset composition. You got to get that first kill in order to get off the ground and allow Era to take over.
Yeah, when looking at the bot lane of Team Liquid, whether it's Kim Down building upon this level of experience or Arrow now being positioned to try and take over, you have to give credit to the opposite side. Looking at Breezy specifically, right, and coming off of such a strong split prior, wanting to build upon that and looking good in facilitating for the rest of the team. And now on Renata Glass, that's been coming back through. That kind of has that double impact because of the way that her kit can work in these games. So we're past the bans. We're continuing through with the locks. We know what the bot lanes are going to look like as well as the jungle position. So again, looking to target the solo lanes at the later stage of this draft.
Yeah, and we do see Wukong coming through as well for Kevy. Now, Kevy has been performing better this year on CLG Challengers, having more familiarity with the team, having more familiarity, having moved over from Oceania with just the culture here. It has been an improvement coming through for this player, but it still feels as though CLG Challengers is most easily attackable through the jungle, and Mir is probably our best jungler that we have in the entire league. He's been looking so good ever since he comes through. He ticks all the boxes that I have when looking for how strong this player actually is. They withhold their abilities. They have fantastic target selection. They aren't slow when it comes to finding some of these major engages. And now that they're on the Jarvan, you're going to really have to see that super dramatically because you don't have as many abilities to do really big things with. You really only have 2 buttons that you are really focused on. And so Team Liquid Challengers, they put him on this one character. They have a lot of backup and a lot of dive to potentially come through. But as you already talked about, Gabby, it's trying to go into this Renata Glass, and now also the Cyclone coming out from Kevy. Feels as though Meech has plenty protection.
That's going to be the name of the game for CLG when building up the threat that Meech can be. So we got everything locked in. We've got some great tools for Mir specifically on this J4. Who are you favoring?
I kind of like the way that CLG have built up, right? Copy has been a fantastic Akali player, and some of our favorite highlights of this player have come on this champion. And for Team Liquid Challengers, it's going to be a little bit difficult for Bradley to actually find their way into the game. Jenkins has been credited as one of our best laning top laners so far, and Bradley, well, he's got a lot of solo kills, has also gotten a lot of solo deaths, and now that they're on the Cassante, it's going to be difficult for them to actually find their way deep into some of these fights, and Bradley has struggled in the past in order to find these important flanks to contribute to these big fights.
Kind of a flip in what we have been traditionally seeing in the regular season from the top laners. I mean, for Jenkins has 9 games on the Cassante, but is playing the Sejuani here.
Yep.
Whereas Bradley, this is just the second Cassante game coming through, but a victory on the first one at that.
True.
So looking how that lane is going to play out and the rest of the team, how they will protect these carries in the Jinx, in the Varus for Meech to come out on top.
I always love watching the trash talk between Team Liquid members and their coach, because they try not to trash talk other teams, but they'll trash talk each other. And Bradley, last time we saw that Team Liquid was putting this guy on multiple tanks. I believe it was like Sejuani and Sion. Was like, hey coach, give me some carries to play. Now they got the Cassante as, all right guys, I know Team Liquid is popular, but there is no way that it is 100% that Team Liquid Challenger actually going to take this one down. This is actually one of our most hotly contested lower bracket series, I think, all day.
Yeah, it has to be. Both of the strengths of these teams being very well known and kind of working against each other in an elimination bracket, I would think would keep the voting a little closer, but
yeah, no faith.
86%. Yeah. All right, there it's. But
it's
here's the thing, CLG, they talk about it all the time. Their players talk about it. Dokula was just talking about it in an interview over on the LCS side about how much better they do when people don't believe in them and they're the underdogs. So if you apply that to all parts of CLG, then they don't want you to vote for them.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's getting really close. I don't know if that's going to be helpful or not. As I'll be getting a lot of damage down on APA at level 1. APA trying to find a little bit more vision, trying to come in from an unusual angle, but Copy not having any of it. And so, as we see some of these early pathing, it is worth noting that Mir does get spotted out by this ward on his Raptors. And Mir has been a player who has found so much of their early game success actually finding ganks down towards the bottom side by dipping through, trying to take a longer route around so that they are not spotted. And CLG doesn't know, but I mean, not knowing doesn't mean you can't infer. This is still Mir. He's gone for more bot lane ganks than any jungler before the 3-minute mark this entire year.
Absence of information does not always mean you are completely informationless. So definitely working with some of the knowledge on the play patterns of these teams. Mir making his way across that bot river and very deliberate in his movement towards this blue buff belonging to Kevy, who's currently locked onto Wolves, but top scrap going through as well.
Yep. Hinder loving hugs and care. There it is. Just trying to figure out what the H could stand for, as we do see Mir coming through. Not going for a bottom lane gank, but are going for a bottom side invade, taking away the opposing blue buff before moving over to their own side of the jungle.
More invading.
More invading. I do want to give a quick update on what's going on in the other stream. If this is the only one you are watching, Wildcard did take down TSM Challengers 2-0. And FlyQuest Challengers already up 1 game over AoE. So remember, AoE do go down to FlyQuest Challengers here. They will be playing the promotion relegation tournament, which will be happening next month.
What's some spicy implications for the matches on the other stream? Wildcard's been tearing it up. What a fun team. There's always a couple of the professional teams to notice that come through and really kind of become the iconic stars that then everyone, you know, funnels over and really starts cheering them on. They're typically, I feel like a lot of times they're the scrappier teams as well.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why Wildcard was doing so well, is a lot of members of AoE Ginger Turmeric, but we'll talk about that a little bit more another time. We do have 2 Challengers teams going head to head as 2 of our potentially early favorites for the season, again bashing heads. And so far, one of the things that we have known about Arrow throughout their career as an AD carry, they tend to be a pretty good laner. Do have a small advantage coming into this one. They tend to really try and optimize for a number of auto attacks on the enemy champions whenever they can. Whereas Kim Down, relatively new to the whole competitive aspect, has been, you know, learning quite a bit from Arrow. And I love the impressions that the players will do of Kim Down, because he's such a quiet kid most of the time.
It very much builds into, there's actually a strategy, not just in League, but really anything competitive, where often when you have that veteran paired with the newer, fresher face, then it helps accelerate their learning curve. You see it on all kinds of levels. It's kind of what the LCS has adopted, especially since EG implementing that 2 rookies or young players surrounded by veterans. 100 Thieves LCS team is doing that this year as well. And when you have a laning situation like that, it works very effectively. There's a different level to when you have that communication too between the 2 players, that then they can learn from each other, the way that Berserker and Sven, for instance, when Sven switched to support, and they kind of trade knowledge in that way. So Arrow and Kim Down being paired together on Team Liquid hopefully means that Kim Down is really being an encyclopedia download system of everything he can learn from the squad. Yeah,
and from everything we've heard, Kim Down has been one of the best in terms of actually coming back and making sure that they are learning relatively quickly, has had a great attitude for the game. Team Liquid, I mean, for a team that has typically prided itself on its ability to blitz other teams early on in the game by finding some strong ganks from Mir, by getting their bottom lane ahead, they don't have that large of an advantage coming through, just a couple of minions, but a better back timer does mean that Arrow walks back into lane with that Noon Quiver and will buy the rest of the team a little bit more time to try and pick up this early Ocean Dragon. So it's not the same way that Team Liquid oftentimes find their early advantages, but they are finding at least something here. And it's worth noting that both top lane and the mid lane are going very firmly in favor of Team Liquid so far.
And now in that jungle position with this acquisition of the Dragon for Team Liquid, and a slight farming lead for Mir as well. Team Liquid are building up some work for themselves. 1,000 gold advantage here past 6 minutes. Not leaving any openings for CLG to really turn the tables. Playing everything with a pretty moderate temperament.
Yeah. And we'll see how that tends to continue, right? One of the ways that Jenkins has described Bradley in the past when I was talking to them was that Bradley is a player who will oftentimes flip it at some point during the lane. And he's pretty good at going for these flips. He's a very mechanically talented player, but whether or not that flip goes in Bradley's favor can really determine how effectively they are able to play the game. They have been a very easy target for a lot of other teams to go for some of these ganks, but this ward coming through from Bradley, putting it down on the Krugs, will stifle Kevy's ability to try and make anything happen up here. Was Mir trying to make something happen down in the bottom lane.
There is a control ward.
Nice.
That CLG have put down if Mir decides to step up to attempt to make this happen. but in the end, sought out, very aware of that fact, still remaining in the vicinity in case Meech and Breezy decide to step up. But the zoning off of the potential follow-up on farming for CLG is pretty good by Arrow and him down to ensure this advantage in farm continues to extend.
Yeah. Good job so far from Team Liquid, right? No kills coming through, but already 1,000 gold in favor of Team Liquid. But now we're seeing a little bit of a counterpunch from CLG. One of the things that has been really good about CLG's gameplay is they have been very good at picking up these Rift Heralds. It's just a couple of seconds before it actually spawns, and this is when you typically see Breezy in particular. You see the bottom lane going for a back. Breezy usually walks out towards the Rift Herald at this point, and they've won so many of those skirmishes around that objective. But Team Liquid, wise to that, they're already sending him down up towards the top side of the map, and Arrow moving towards the middle. Hasn't committed yet whether they want to actually fight for the Rift Herald or go towards the bottom side, but now as they are spotted on the map, looks like we're getting a full 5-on-5 for this objective.
I would love an early fight of the hypest proportions if they decide to take it, but I think that making sure that you have enough firepower here if CLG decide to step up to this is a good way to ensure that you capitalize upon these farming leads that you've been able to execute upon thus far. There's Coffee's attempt to get into the backline, and Mir wanting to answer. Arrow on the outskirts of the fight. The Cataclysm centered on a knockback with multiple members of CLG. It's one eliminated for Team Liquid, and the follow-up makes that number grow all the more. CLG come out on top in the fight.
So many members below a quarter HP on CLG, but they find a dominating fight coming through. Copy finds so much in that. It's part of why this guy has been consistently one of the players that we ask, should this guy have an opportunity for LCS? He gets the priority mid lane and prevents APA from playing. But that's exactly what we're looking at from CLG. They find some of these early game plays. Now the big question for me, they are so good at getting the Rift Herald, but they're not always as good at actually using the Rift Herald to its full effect. They are so focused trying to find the perfect one, they often forget to just find a good one.
We like good Rift Heralds, and I mean, this was the attempt by Team Liquid, but Coffee definitely working to dismantle.
Yeah. Here we go. I mean, APA never really gets to participate in this one. They throw down an ultimate onto Jenkins, but hey, he never really goes below half HP. That is still going to be the tank, and Copy, I mean, prevented APA from ever really getting into the fight. Great stuff from CLG. A little bit more decisive than Team Liquid, and that is exactly what we need to see when CLG is firing on all cylinders.
All right, CLG. Whenever you are the team that's designated the Scrim Gods, it always feels like there's a magnifying glass on your games and trying to reach up to those expectations. Though there is also that other aspect where often you have to take Scrim things with a grain of salt, and we're starting to hear that from some of the other players, but it shows the potential that they have and wanting to execute here now in playoff territory. They have eliminated that gold lead that Team Liquid was building just from their laning prowess, and now instead with those 3 kills started to pull it in their favor and still have that Rift Herald that they can drop down at some point. 20 seconds to go on the next dragon spawning. Having a Rift Herald ahead of that is always something that you can use across mid lane or bot lane to create some pressure on one of the surrounding areas to best ensure you can get the priority on that dragon.
Yeah. CLG, they're playing a little bit slowly towards it. Kevy just now getting a recall off, has to complete a Divine Sunder. So that's a scary monkey going to be coming through, but Mir is going to be here first. And that does mean that they can potentially try and find a play onto Breezy or Meech before the fight actually starts. Having lost a ton of... Oh, they just go blind!
Going on in. Mir's here. Arrow throws the ultimate across. A flash expelled by Breezy. All the while, Copy's in pursuit of APA. Throws him into his own jungle. So, no lives lost there, but did get a little bit of summoner action from the support position.
Yeah, I mean, taking down Breezy's flash is not the most impactful thing for all of these fights, because Breezy will be spending a lot of time towards the back of the fight trying to make sure that they don't get jumped on. And of course, they now have access to the hostile takeover, making sure that any business that Team Liquid is going for, not going to be able to find anything there. And Team Liquid, they're now potentially looking to go towards the dragon, as Kevy is going towards the mid lane. Does just throw down the Rift Herald, will get themselves 2 plates off of that one. So ultimately not going to be letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. CLG, once again, moving forward to the fight first, and Copy is already here before APA can rotate.
were able to throw down some pressure onto mid lane to make sure that rotation would be a bit more delayed on the Team Liquid side compared to CLG. Kevy just getting a little bit of pokes. They want to see if Team Liquid will show face before they fully commit with the positioning of this bot lane here. Yeah. Burning it down, though. Team Liquid just residing in the bush, seeing if they get a pick if somebody decides to venture down the riverside.
Oh, Kim down.
Over the wall, trying to make the play. Some damage here from Jinx. Another knock-up onto Kevy. And Breezy brought out of the fight. The Cyclone action. Good arrow getting burned on down. Team Liquid losing out in the fight again. And CLG feeling good about it.
Yeah, that's the rookie nerves kind of coming through on that one. CLG, I mean, it looked like a situation where Team Liquid, they were so close to having enough damage to get the first kill, but they never actually find it. And now Team Liquid, they're trying desperately to find something on the other side of the map.
You say we lost down bot. Let's try up here. Bradley going in to make the play happen. So Team Liquid getting the first kill of their game off of that pressure on the top side, but CLG in the end have the overall advantage.
Yeah. I mean, giving a bit of a kill over to Bradley, taking away a couple plates up here for the Team Liquid solo laners is some much needed gold. But it's still going to be a spot where CLG, once they are in control, it's way easier for them to play out. They are so good at playing these pressure styles of games when it actually comes down to it. It's how they beat Cloud9, potentially the best team in the league at playing some of these pressure games. But as we take a look at some of the gold, right, you know, small leads coming through across every position, but heavy, giant lead over Mir already. We were saying that this was the way he could potentially attack CLG, but Kevy already strong enough that he is not worried about that 1v1. The only place where Team Liquid has an advantage is still up in that top side where Bradley has gotten a lot of gold, does get that kill, already has the first item and extra sheen to maybe try and bully Jenkins.
And in that jungle matchup that you're referencing, we've seen Mir try to go for the plays that J4 has to do to be relevant in this early game, but unfortunately CLG have won out in those matchups. If TL can make something happen with Bradley on that top side to build it into an extended advantage, then they can keep themselves neck and neck with CLG. But all the while, it is a split between the Dragons. We're past 14 minutes, so plates are no longer a play. A whole 2.5 minutes until the next Dragon spawns. So for now, it's a lot of vision establishment as farming becomes all the more important for some of these items to get online.
Yep. For Meech.
Looking for the play, gets a root back, teleport coming in towards the LG. So Arrow and Kim Down want to go as quickly as possible out of there. A charm from the quickness from Kim Down onto one, but as soon as it expires, Jenkins backs out, so he doesn't take any turret damage. Now Kevy's coming for the dive into the back line. Mir goes with the Cataclysm, spinning around. Kevy's here to play, though. 3 taken down again by Team Liquid. They traded a support for multiple members on the blue side. CLG basically doubling their gold lead now, and they're going to get this bot turret.
Yeah, this turret is going to be falling. We did see the first one already fall, so it's not first brick, but hey, silver linings for Team Liquid as CLG firmly in control of this one. And this is looking like the scrim version of CLG. Yeah. They go for some of these big fights. They are willing to risk it all trying to go for these dives, and they are being rewarded for it. Bradley, APA, the only members who have any gold at this point on Team Liquid is Poppy. I mean, skyrocketing ahead. We were already looking at Kevy, nearly 1,500 gold ahead of Mir before. Picks up a couple more kills, picks up some more assists. This guy is strong as all hell. And now, I mean, we've seen this before. Kim Down and Mir, they've been struggling to work together in a lot of these fights. They oftentimes get separated, and as the cleanse comes through from Arrow, at the very least, they are able to dodge away from the ultimate from Jenkins. But immediately after that, Heavy just jumps over the wall, says, we are already going. I know their ultimates are already down, but we have all 5 members here. They do not have enough damage. They do not have the ultimates to actually go for this fight. And while Breezy goes down, those are silver linings. So that was a kill picked up by Kim Down.
And the immediacy at which CLG were able to capitalize upon that attempt that Mir was making with Team Liquid, with the teleport, with the team's rotation, just shows how on the same page they are. And now along this rift, the Herald over on the top side, there's still some contest from Team Liquid, but CLG, Meech getting caught out, Charmed and more will get the bail, but cannot get a kill in response.
Bradley?
Bradley getting focused by Copy. Copy is low and has Kevy here as well, but Blast Zone Premier to get into it, throws down the ultimate. And now APA and the squad, they can dish out some damage to Kevy. Kevy can't swing around enough for the life to be extended. Team Liquid finding a way to get the aggressive advantage and draw it back. No more gold lead for CLG.
Wow, 3 shutdowns getting picked up all at once and going to the people who need them the most. APA skyrocketing to 2-0-2. Actually has a bounty now, has the second item completed before 18 minutes, and Team Liquid, I mean, a great play coming through to punish CLG, being overconfident in their rotations. They're going to be equalizing on another dragon. They're going to be grabbing the Infernal, which puts them to 2-1.
Yeah, all right, Team Liquid.
Okay.
Suddenly, that one dragon of CLG isn't looking as scary. Gold lead has swung back over towards Team Liquid. It's only 1 turret each at this point. Very different feeling for Team Liquid now than there were mere moments ago before that fight around the Rift Herald.
Yeah, and so far, I mean, we have to praise APA looking to find some of these picks here onto Meech with the help of Kim Down, just blowing him up almost instantly, and they do give a little bit more money right here. Try and chase everybody down, but on the other side of the fight, the top side, Bradley still so strong already in this Cassante. You just go all out, and even though you're already at half health, suddenly you're a brand new champion again, catching everybody with the long rotations. And again, it was Copy, Heavy, and Meech who all had shutdowns to give up. They take down every single one of them.
So now, Joshi, if you're CLG, how are you feeling about this turn, considering what you're trying to go for in this game, where you want these advantages to be, and that we're about to hit that 20-minute mark?
I mean, the big thing that is scary is the fact that APA suddenly is now 2-0-2. This is a huge scaling threat coming out. And every time you get some of those kills, you land all those spells onto people, you get a couple more Cinder Blocks. And as you get to spend those to upgrade your abilities later on, suddenly you're going to be able to burst out basically everybody. Copy who's going to be under threat. Kevy's going to be under threat. Meech is always going to be worried about trying to get blown up by APA. And now as CLG, they got to try and find enough off of these fights so that Copy remains a credible threat on the backline.
And because they were able to finish off that turret on their own, they can get that charge of the Rift Herald onto the tier 2. One way for them to regain a bit of map control and immediately rotate out of it so that they're not forced into any fight that they don't want to take. Mirror, you can see the angles that he's looking for as well.
Here goes.
Wants to reach the back, could not connect with Breezy or the rest. So now Team Liquid venturing over towards the river.
Oh, Copy TP'd.
And Copy wants to find potentially the flank angle. Right now, there's no dragon up. There's no major objectives on this portion of the map for a guarantee of Team Liquid's positioning. So Copy now has to be ushered back towards the rest of CLG.
Yeah, just a constant push and pull, but the teleport expended there by Copy. Does mean it's going to be a little bit harder for them to go for some of these flanks around the upcoming dragon. And so far, I mean, this was not how I was expecting this game to go, right? Like, Team Liquid built up some leads, but it had nothing to do with the fact that Mir was trying to kill the bottom lane over and over. They tried a couple of times. It was actually CLG who won 2 big fights in a row. Now we're back to a situation where off of 3 picks, which oftentimes how CLG finds their leads, Team Liquid are the ones with this advantage to start looking at these upcoming dragons. And so, one of the big things that we always look at in these games, Gabby, or at least that I am paying attention to, is how Arrow is positioning. Because one, he's on the Jinx, he needs to get these resets off. But when he plays as far forward as he does, he becomes a major target for CLG to try and pick off before fights actually start in a way that a lot of other AD carries don't.
And Copy is one of the ones that for CLG you will be looking at to try to punish any of that mispositioning and burn down the greatest threat from Team Liquid. So yeah, CLG really controlled the pacing in the early game, getting those kind of 3-for-0 trade, 3-for-0, 3-for-1, whatever it may be, and then Team Liquid scrapping it back. They're almost pushing to that 1K mark in gold. 2 dragons for them, still over a minute to prep for the next, and APA getting this push on the bot side means that they'll officially have the turret advantage as well. All of the outers secured.
Yeah. As we start looking at this, one of the things that we look at for CLG, so much of their success comes through their two solo laners, Jenkins and Copy. Jenkins being one of the most vocal members and also one of the most veteran members. Almost everybody that plays against him says, yeah, he is super impressive to play against in lane. But as we start looking at how this upcoming fight will go, these two are the major flankers. If they are on the same page when it comes to actually trying to set up these fights, CLG looks nigh undefeatable a lot of the time. But they haven't really been tested so far this game. Almost every single time a fight has been going, it's been Team Liquid who actually starts it off. And if Team Liquid's setup has been good so far, they've been winning. But so far, they're 1 for 3, I'd say.
Which, I really want to see the next fight break out, which will be soon enough, it feels, because of that dragon approaching. Because we're looking at those solo laners in their way that they're able to pressure. People like Jenkins, who, yes, in lane is so oppressive, but as somebody who's picked up so many shot calling skills over his time back in LCS and just over the years and really developing those intangibles, how do those come into play here as Team Liquid are rotating towards the river to try and match the setup of CLG?
Yeah, and CLG, they do have Copy off on one side, but not going to be able to find a great flank angle. It's going to be difficult for Copy to find their way into these fights because it will be largely a front to back. Heavy is going for a rotation, but he is on vision and APA marks him.
TL are feeling powerful even against that potential flank angle, immediately taking some health off of Jenkins. CLG step up though. CLG, they get the dragon. Can they get the fight? Copy going down low, has to get the perfect execution out of there. But Arrow is the one to find the damage, to find the long range hits. Meech next to fall. Team Liquid, they don't win the objective play, but with a double kill from Arrow, they take down 3.
And we looked at it. The setup coming in from CLG was not aggressive enough. Heavy getting spotted out, wasn't able to go in for any kind of flank. And Team Liquid, they get a front to back. They're rewarded for it. Arrow on this Jinx gets the reset, and now they're going to be starting up the Baron as well. CLG, no members left to actually contest this one. This is very rapidly starting to look like Team Liquid in the driver's seat for the rest of the game. APA, when they back, probably going to have a Rabadon's completed. Arrow, another half an item, but look at this. As you are forcing CLG to come in for a front-to-back style team fight, that's not what Akali is super good at. It's what Jinx is super good at. And as this fight starts to come through, Copy gets charmed almost instantly, doesn't really ever have an opportunity to get towards the back line, has to use the perfect execution to try and leave the fight. And from there, I mean, Meech is halfway dead. Copy is already dead. There's not enough damage left for CLG because Team Liquid play super defensively. They make sure that Arrow is alive the entire time. And crucially, he didn't have to blow his cleanse. He was so far back, the hostile takeover didn't even hit him.
And even though CLG get that dragon, it is one that Team Liquid is okay with giving up, considering that win on the fight and then being able to move on over towards Baron to now be working with the Rally Cry Baron buff for the next couple minutes. CLG, they run into one. Teleport for Team Liquid for the support. A charm coming through from Crim down onto Kevy. Team Liquid can capitalize. CLG, they lose their jungler, and Team Liquid will usher some of this wave coming through mid lane, but just try to upkeep some pressure with this Baron buff.
They lose their jungler, but more importantly, they lose all of their team fight ults at this point. There's no way for CLG to get a team fight started without the ultimates from Jenkins, from Kevy, from Meech, and now Team Liquid, they're barreling through. They're going to take the first inhibitor turret, and Team Liquid coming in as the 9th seed, upsetting one of the teams, or looking to get the first game in an upset against one of the teams that everybody's been saying, these guys have been on par with teams like Cloud9 in scrims, and Team Liquid, I mean, we get to see a little bit more of what APA has been saying. I feel as though Team Liquid have improved faster than CLG throughout the course of this split.
A lot of times you see that reversal of what teams' perceived power levels are kind of internally throughout the season. There's always ones that right off the bat, it feels like they have an identity, they know what they're playing through, and therefore are playing really well in scrims and playing fairly decent when it matters and being able to hold off against teams like Cloud9 and taking victories. Whereas Team Liquid, if you have kind of that room to jump forward as APA is expressing and going through that additional training feeling like you're leveling up every time that you get that breakdown on what has been happening in scrims, then suddenly your internally perceived power level feels stronger than the team that has been a threat throughout the regular season. And Team Liquid are showing that in full effect in game number 1 of this matchup. 5.5 thousand gold lead for Team Liquid, and just really mitigating any of the advantages that CLG had created early on.
Yeah, there's a couple of deep potential teleport wards for Copy as we get to see. Oh, I think that's supposed to be a picture-in-picture.
Nice.
We're back.
Big ol'.
Curse gone. A couple deep teleport wards for Copy to try and go for it, try and manufacture a fight, and there he goes, already using one.
Now trying to rapidly join a multi-route actually coming through from Meech, and now Team Liquid on the retreat. They want to collapse upon Copy before he can come through with the perfect execution.
Oh, they got him!
They got him good. And there's the hostile takeover in response, but it's still a double kill for APA. Team Liquid can keep pressuring forward, can keep hitting that go button as they take this inhibitor turret. Keep their sights on the objective. Only 3 members standing for CLG. You can see the damage that Breezy is taking. Super Mega Death Rocket from Jinx to bring him down, so he has to stand in the fountain. And Team Liquid, before hitting the 30-minute mark of this game, stand strong in one fight and beyond. Finish off CLG with a nice ace for the proper taste of Team Liquid fans to be cheering them on in game number 1.
Wow, great stuff coming through from Team Liquid. It looked really dire based on some of the early engages that they had, but they turned that one around in style, finding, again, all 3 shutdowns, and then from there, they understand how to play their win conditions. It wasn't about Bradley. It wasn't about Mir trying to find these big plays. It was just about making sure that you could make sure that Arrow was going to be able to stand tall in these fights. They find the pocket for him. He and APA constantly dishing out damage. Great stuff from Team Liquid.
Team Liquid strong in game 1 against CLG, 1 game away from securing their progression in the bracket and ending the CLG run. But maybe we'll get to a game 3. Only time will tell. We'll see you on the other side of the break.